Hello there, very good evening and welcome to the news at 6 here on Sabha TV, where we get you the day's top developing stories, especially of this hour. I'm Tracy Shilshi and let's start with the headlines. The Supreme Court says the collegium system of appointing judges cannot be put on hold after Centre refuses to formulate a draft memorandum of procedure. On Indira Gandhi's 98th birth anniversary, Congress leadership attacks the NDA. Rahul Gandhi challenges government to probe allegations against him. RBI staff members go on a mass casual leave for a day, demand revision of pension and express concern against prospective erosion of RBI's authority. The stage is set for the oath-taking of Nitish Kumar as Chief Minister of Bihar. Chief Ministers of various states to attend it. Venkaiah Naidu will represent Prime Minister Modi. And French Prime Minister warns of a likely biological weapons attack against his country. Urges the European Union to support the war against terror. The top story this hour, the Supreme Court has said that the collegium system of appointment of judges shall not be put on hold. Further, it reserved its order after hearing the suggestions by various lawyers, bar bodies and associations on improving the system. Earlier, refusing to formulate a draft memorandum on the procedure, the Union government has said that a draft procedure would undermine the role of the Chief Justice of India. The Supreme Court had asked the Centre to formulate that draft procedure for collegium reforms. The procedure under which appointments are made was prepared in 1998 by the Centre in consultation with the CJI then. The government says that it will either come out with a procedure in consultation with the Chief Justice of India or leave it to the collegium to improve the system. Employees and Officers' Union of the Reserve Bank went on a mass casual leave today to press for the resolution of some of the long-standing demands and some recent ones as well. They also expressed their opposition to some reforms that the government is planning for the bank.
17,000 RBI staff members took a day off on Thursday in protest, warning that the agitation could escalate. The unions told the government to keep its hands off the RBI. The government's plans to set up a monetary policy committee and impose curbs on the foreign exchange management are sore points.
With the intervention of the government, then it will be something which is, they people are trying to dictate the things which we don't want and will never allow such things to happen in times to come.
The staff members also said that their pension be adjusted to rising wages. The demand is an old one, and the unions had struck work in February 2009 on the same issue.
पेंशन अपडेशन गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया अपने पे कमीशन में हर 10 साल के बाद करती है और एक तरफ कहती है भारत सरकार कि हमारा जो पेंशन स्कीम है वो गवर्नमेंट के एट-पार है, परंतु उसमें भेदभाव है। हम उस भेदभाव के खिलाफ संघर्ष पर हैं।
The opposition is alleging that the government was trying to stifle RBI's powers.
I appeal to the government not to do anything in hurry, consult the unions, consult the Reserve Bank management, and let us see what can be done. And finally, Parliament, the Finance Ministry should take Parliament also into...
Power of the RBI is being cut by the central government. It is not by the central government, but a commission was set up under Mr. Krishna, which said that there should be a draft financial code which has to be implemented.
The RBI governor, 4 deputy governors and 11 executive directors who aren't part of any association or union were exempt from the mass leave program. It was the first strike since Governor Raghuram Rajan took charge. Rajan had agreed with the government to form a monetary policy committee which will have its representatives in it. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
The stage is set for the swearing-in ceremony of Nitish Kumar in Patna tomorrow. A host of dignitaries, including various chief ministers, will be present at the event. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi is also likely to attend that function. Meanwhile, Union Ministers Venkaiah Naidu and Rajiv Pratap Rudy will be representing the government.
Patna's historic Gandhi Maidan decked up for the oath ceremony of Nitish Kumar as Bihar Chief Minister. Slated to start at 2 p.m. on Friday, Quite a few political heavyweights are expected to attend the function. They will include Chief Ministers of 9 states and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Venkaiah Naidu, who will represent the Prime Minister.
इस बार तो ऐतिहासिक ये शपथ ग्रहण हो रहा है। देश के नामी गिरामी पर्सनैलिटी इसमें आ रही हैं और इस ढंग का शपथ ग्रहण शायद किसी को देखने को नहीं मिला होगा।
ओथ ले रहे हैं, हमारी शुभकामनाएं हैं, उन जो तमाम तरह के वायदे किए हैं, तमाम तरह के सब्ज़बाग दिखाए हैं, उन्हें उम्मीद है कि उसको पूरा करने में वो सफल हों।
The tight security includes over 2,000 personnel at the venue. 2 canopy-shaped dais have been erected for the VVIPs and for those under SPG cover. A separate gallery has been set up for women. This will be the 5th time that Nitish Kumar will be sworn in as the Chief Minister. This time, he is leading a government of the Mahagathbandhan that will have ministers from his JDU, the RJD and the Congress. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to another one of the big national stories today. On the 98th birth anniversary of Indira Gandhi, the top leadership of the Congress criticized the BJP leadership. While former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh called the economic policies of the NDA directionless, Vice President Rahul Gandhi challenged the government to prove the allegations levelled against him.
जी आपकी सरकार है, आपके पास एजेंसियां हैं, अब ले इन एजेंसियों को, मेरे ऊपर इन्वेस्टिगेशन करो और 6 महीने के अंदर अगर आपको कुछ मिले मुझे बंद करो। ये जो आप कचरा अपने चमचों से मेरे ऊपर फेंकवाते हो, मेरे परिवार के ऊपर आप सालों से फेंक रहे हो, अब आप ऑपोजिशन में नहीं हो, अब आप सरकार में हो, 56 इंच की छाती निकालो, एजेंसियां लगाओ मेरे पीछे और मुझे बंद करो अगर मैंने कुछ गलत किया है।
The Congress Vice President choosing the 98th birth anniversary of his grandmother and former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi to respond to the recent allegations against him. Challenging the ruling party to prove their charges, Rahul didn't spare even the RSS, the parent organization of the BJP, equating it with the banned militant outfit Simmi.
एक तरफ आरएसएस के लोग, दूसरे तरफ सिम्मी के लोग लड़ाई कराते हैं, दंगा कराते हैं, हिंदुस्तानियों को मरवाते हैं और बीच में कांग्रेस पार्टी जोड़ने का काम करती है।
Former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh opened yet another front against the government. Inaugurating the day-long event of the youth wing of Congress, he questioned the economic policies of the NDA government.
We should today go and tell the country the harmful consequences of Modi government having done away with the planning commission. Today, the economic policies of the country have no sense of direction.
Congress President Sonia Gandhi asked party workers to fight to preserve the secular fabric of the nation.
We must fight to preserve the secular fabric of our nation, and we must never forget that India will not really progress if the weakest and most deprived do not progress.
While the Congress has been raising the issue of communal harmony, questioning the economic policies of the government, it is for the first time that party vice president has responded to personal allegations. Vishal Dahiya, Rajya Sabha TV, Delhi.
All right, so some interesting observations, statements and allegations being made there, of course. And to take us through what we can expect further and also to talk about it further, in fact, we've got Vishal Dahiya, our correspondent, in fact, joining us from the newsroom to talk about what Rahul Gandhi, of course, has said. And we also have senior journalist Priyaranjan Dash also joining us in studio here to talk about, of course, what the former Prime Minister did talk about, the economic policies of the current government. If I could come to you first, though, Vishal, Rahul Gandhi, of course, coming out with those statements, a lot of people saying that he's finally coming into his element. A lot of it, of course, also can be attributed to that victory in Bihar. So the words, of course, getting stronger and, definitely more directive towards Prime Minister Modi.
Well, yes. You put it right. It can be attributed to a certain extent to that victory in Bihar, specifically for the Congress, which jumped from 4 to 27. But then today's remarks from Rahul Gandhi, and not only from Rahul Gandhi, but from the other two top leaders of the party as well. Now, we've seen time and again the Congress's top leadership trying to corner Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, and the NDA government on on several issues. But then when it comes to personal attacks which have been made against the Gandhi family, specifically the recent allegations against Rahul Gandhi. The members of the Gandhi family and Rahul Gandhi himself had kept his cool as of now, with no response specifically from him. The party had defended him, but the Vice President decided not to respond. This was the first time that Rahul Gandhi effectively came forward and responded to those allegations, and the kind of verbal attack and kind of challenge which he threw at Prime Minister Modi is considered to be a sort of indication to what exactly might be the strategy ahead for the party, the main opposition party. And people would be keeping a watch, given the fact that the winter session of Parliament will also begin in a few days from now.
Absolutely. Just about a week to go for that. Thanks so much, Vishal, for joining us on that story. Meanwhile, talking about, of course, what Prime Minister Manmohan Singh did say earlier today, he, of course, questioned the economic policies of the NDA government. Mr. Dash, is there any significance that we can attribute to this, considering that, as a Prime Minister, we do have conflicting, opinions about how he was as a Prime Minister, but he was definitely a smart economist. So do we take this into account of what he does say about the NDA's policies?
Well, insofar as the Planning Commission is concerned, Planning Commission was the vestiges of a centrally planned, controlled economy, sheltered and protected from the outside world. And in that shape and size and in that form, it had become irrelevant since 1990s, once India embraced market economy. And the role of the public sector declined, and greater encouragement was given to market forces and to the private sector in particular. Now, that is the Planning Commission since the 90s itself had also been evolving. It was not as if it hadn't evolved before it was completely, and I would say abruptly, abolished. But the abrupt abolition of the Planning Commission without putting in place an organization to take care of the new challenges and the new tasks that are required to be performed, particularly in the social sector, and considering that the government still plays a welfare role outside the market, where you required an umbrella kind of policy organization to steer the process of development, especially with regard to the social sector development, human resources development that this country requires. Now, what has happened is, since the Planning Commission was abolished, and now a lot of those programs, especially in the social sector, health, education, rural development, etc., which were being done through central sector programs, and the Planning Commission in a way was responsible for distribution of resources to different states, and was responsible to look at the balance, development and growth taking place in different areas, parts of the country. That role nobody is playing, because now those schemes have been transferred to the states. And the states were not ready with an alternative mechanism and institution to be able to take up that, like a relay stick, to take up that. So for now, we have a dislocation that we are seeing, especially in these social sector development programs, such as in education, in health, and even in rural sector.
All right.
So that is clearly leading to dislocation and some bottlenecks that one encounters in the development process. And the states, because the central schemes have been discontinued.
Yes.
And of course, the center has been able to transfer resources which were being spent on those schemes through the 14th Finance Commission mechanism to the states.
Yes.
But the states have not been in a position to execute those programs and take those forward.
All right. We'll leave it there for now. Mr. Das, thanks so much for joining us. Of course, as we pointed out, of course, the Congress, of course, in battleground mode, and eventually we will be seeing that perhaps in the winter session as well. A lot of these topics, of course, will be coming up as well. Meanwhile, let's head on to another one of our top stories. And Colonel Santosh Mahadik was cremated with full military honours today in his hometown Satara in Maharashtra. Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar, Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, and thousands of people paid homage to the martyr. Here's a report.
With a 21-gun salute, the nation bid adieu to the martyr. Amid the ringing sounds of Bharat Mata Ki Jai, thousands of people offered their respects to slain army officer Colonel Santosh Mahadik. The mourners included Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar, Commanding Officer of 41 Rashtriya Rifles, Colonel Mahadik was critically injured on Tuesday in an operation at the Hajinaka forest area of Kupwara near the LOC in Kashmir. He died of his injuries at a hospital later. Colonel Mahadik is survived by a wife and 2 children.
Well, let's take you through more updates from across the country in Nationwide. The Calcutta High Court has cancelled the bail granted to Trinamool Congress leader Madan Mitra. He is an accused in the Sharda scam and had yesterday resigned as the state's transport minister hours after the CBI pleaded that his bail be cancelled since he was still functioning as a cabinet minister in the state government. Sri Lankan authorities today arrested 14 Indian fishermen for allegedly violating the international maritime boundary line. The detention comes just a week after 126 Indian fishermen were released by the Lankan Navy last week. The death toll in rain-related incidents in Tamil Nadu has crossed 100 now. Parts of Chennai received fresh rains this morning, with the northeast monsoon becoming active again. The Weather Office has forecast more rains in the next 24 hours, especially in areas along the western Ghats. Expressing grief over the deaths, Chief Minister Jayalalitha announced a relief of 4 lakh rupees each to the bereaved families. With a quick break here, but still ahead, US President Barack Obama says that Assad must go for peace to prevail in Syria. Details of that in a bit.
Angkor Wat in the ancient land of Cambodia, one of the largest temples in the world. Ruined by invasion and war.
It is then that this temple complex of Angkor Wat became desolate, it got abandoned, it was taken over by the French colonizers, and finally it was taken over by the Buddhist monks.
India's restoration diplomacy has reaffirmed the civilizational links.
We share the common heritage of Buddhism and other historical sites.
Watch Angkor Wat, a shared heritage, on Rajya Sabha television. Fears of erosion of autonomy, or a demand to revise pensions. Why did the RBI workers go on strike? Watch The Big Picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Let's get you a special report now. The government is slashing the prices of drugs and stents by as much as 60%. The move is expected to make treatment of critical diseases far more affordable. Here's more.
Treating cancer and cardiovascular diseases will be a lot more cheaper now, with the government deciding to sell drugs for these ailments at a 50 to 60% discount. The price cut will apply to 200 cancer drugs, 186 cardiovascular medicines, 148 types of stents and cardiac implants. But although patients are happy to get these medicines cheaper, the worry is about how to get them administered.
I think it's a right facility, nice directive from the government of India. But the only drawback is how do we get doctors? Because the medicines you're selling here are definitely cheaper. But how do I administer it? I'll have to look for a doctor who does that. I'll have to look for a facility where these can be mixed and be utilized.
All these drugs can be brought from the government-run Amrit store, Institute of Medical Sciences. The store will soon open at Safdarjung Hospital and Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital as well.
Of course, we cannot say कि अमृत है अमृत में तो कोई फर्क किसी को कुछ होता नहीं है. But I think if it does give medicines, particularly anti-cancer medication and also some drugs and stents related to cardiac ailments at a 50 to 60% subsidized cost to the user, what more I can ask as a citizen?
Given their high incidence, the government has decided to focus on cancer and cardiovascular diseases for the initial program. Cancer cases have gone up by 60% since 1990. Worldwide, the year 2013 saw 14.9 million new cases of cancer and 8.2 million deaths. Globally, cardiovascular diseases are among the leading cause of fatalities.
The project has already begun in AIIMS on pilot basis, and it is expected to replicate other central government hospitals within the next 3 months. The government is now planning to expand the program and reach out to other regional cancer care centers. With camera person Santosh, this is Anshu Jai Singh for Rajya Sabha TV.
On to the national news, and French Prime Minister Manuel Valls has warned that there is a risk that extremists could use chemical and biological weapons to target France. Valls also urged the European Union to urgently adopt measures to share airline passenger information and support the war against terror. Here's a report.
French Prime Minister Manuel Valls has warned that France could face chemical or biological attacks from terror groups. Valls issued the warning as MPs debated extending the state of emergency after the Paris attacks.
Ce sont les modes opératoires, les façons de frapper, de tuer évoluent sans cesse. L'imagination macabre des donneurs d'ordre est sans limite. Fusils d'assaut, décapitation, bombes humaines, armes blanches ou tout à la fois.
The Prime Minister was addressing the French Parliament ahead of a vote to extend the state of emergency by 3 months. He told MPs that terrorism hit France not because of what it is doing in Iraq and Syria, but for what it is.
La menace terroriste est là parce que nos concitoyens nous demandent de tout mettre en œuvre pour les protéger, parce que nous devons continuer à agir avec efficacité. L'état d'urgence doit être prolongé sur tout le territoire, en métropole comme en outre-mer.
Belgian police, meanwhile, raided 6 properties in and around Brussels, linked to suspected Paris attackers Bilal Hadfi and Salah Abdeslam. It remains unclear whether the suspected mastermind of the attacks, Abdelhamid Abaoud, was killed in Wednesday's raid in Paris.
8 gardes à vue, c'est-à-dire 7 hommes et une femme, sont donc actuellement en cours. Actuellement, les identités des personnes interpellées dans l'immeuble ne sont donc pas formellement établies. Cependant, je vous précise que Abaoud et Salah Abdeslam ne font pas partie des gardés à vue.
Investigators believe the attacks, the worst atrocity in France since World War II, was set in motion from Syria with Islamist cells in neighbouring Belgium organising the mayhem. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Meanwhile, US President Barack Obama has said that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad should be removed from office to end Syria's civil war. Obama also said that Russia's efforts in Syria is only propping up Assad. Obama's comments comes days after his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has strongly opposed Assad's ouster and seeks to maintain Russia's foothold. Obama's comment also comes as the civil war intensifies in Syria, helping the Islamic State increase its power. The terror group has recently carried out large-scale attacks in Paris and Beirut and bombed a Russian airliner in Egypt, killing hundreds of civilians. Assad's fate, though, has become a key stumbling block to peace in Syria and a point of contention between the West and Assad's backers in Moscow and Tehran.
The bottom line is, I do not foresee a situation in which we can end the civil war in Syria while Assad remains in power. And by the way, that's not a matter of my decision making. Even if I said that was okay, I still don't think it would actually work. You could not get the Syrian people, the majority of them, to agree to that kind of outcome.
And talking terror, the Indian government froze the assets of over 3 dozen entities on charges of financing terror and laundering illicit funds. The latest report of the global anti-financial terror body, the FATF, says that India blocked 3 lakh euros belonging to 37 entities till August 15th this year. The Financial Action Task Force report is part of the mid-session review of various countries and economic powers of the world. India is a full member of the global body along with other nations like the US, France, Germany and the UK. And now let's get you some more international news updates in Global Buzz. After a shocking bomb blast in the city of Yola, Nigeria was rocked again on Wednesday when 2 suicide bombers killed at least 15 people in the northern city of Kano and injured 53 people. The Islamic State group has announced that it killed a Chinese and a Norwegian hostage. This was after a combined French and Russian airstrike on its Syrian stronghold reportedly left 33 of its fighters dead. 2611 mastermind Hafiz Saeed has challenged the Pakistan government's decision to ban media coverage of his outlawed organizations, the Jamaat-ud-Dawa and the Falai-Insaniyat Foundation. Hafiz filed a petition to this effect in the Lahore High Court today. And changing tracks, let's get you the latest in the world of sports now in Sports. India's men's hockey team has advanced to the semi-finals of the Junior Men's Hockey Asia Cup, thrashing Oman 9-0 in the quarter-finals. This was India's 4th consecutive victory following wins over host Malaysia, Japan and China. India will next take on Japan in the semi-final on Saturday. But in the absence of Saina Nehwal, India's shuttling campaign came to an end at the Hong Kong Open on day 1 itself. All Indian players lost their first-round matches at the Super Series event. K. Shrikant, PV Sindhu, Ajay Jairam, HS Pranoy and the women's doubles pair of Jwala Gutta and Ashwini Ponnappa all failed at the first hurdle. The Indo-Romanian pair of Rohan Bopanna and Florin Mergia will take on the Australian Open champions Simone Bolelli and Fabio Fognini in their final league encounter today. With 2 straight wins, the duo will look to top the Ash Smith group in the ATP World Tour Finals. Stanislaus Wawrinka knocked David Ferrer out of the ATP World Tour Finals with a 7-5, 6-2 win to improve his chance to make it to the last 4. Ferrer failed to convert a set point while serving at 5-3 and double faulted a few points later to allow Wawrinka to get back on serve. Meanwhile, Roger Federer will take on Japan's Kei Nishikori who in fact beat Thomas Berdych 7-5, 3-6, 6-3. The World Anti-Doping Agency WADA has suspended Russia's anti-doping agency amid calls to extend investigations to other countries and sports. The move raised the possibility of Russia being barred from the Olympics if it does not fall into line with accepted international rules. The IAAF has already provisionally suspended Russia from international competition. And that's all we have for you on the news at 6. Thanks so much for joining us.